A piercing alarm suddenly cuts through the heavy silence of the Combat Information Center aboard the Ford. It is not a system error, but a formation of 3 unidentified surface contacts materializing right now. They materialized exactly where empty ocean should be, appearing instantly without approaching, gradually stunning the entire crew bridge. This is CIC reporting new surface tracks appearing at bearing A2, range 14 miles. Their kinematics do not match civilian profiles, as heads snap up and chairs spin around quite fast. The Ford is currently transiting toward a multinational training box near Barbados following a standard route today. But these new arrivals are executing complex maneuvers that no cargo hauler would ever attempt out here. Their velocity matches the carrier perfectly, while their aggressive formation is locked in because they are hunting. And honestly, the timing is disastrous, because Caracas has been flooding the zone for 48 hours. They sent extra patrols following drug interdiction busts. That caused a massive political firestorm back in Venezuela. There were speeches and furious allegations of imperialist meddling alongside a surge of Bolivarian security vessels nearby. None of that rhetoric was officially aimed at the Navy, but sensors do not register intent today. They only register vectors, and right now these vectors look personal for the watchstanders aboard the Ford. This arrival is not random chance, because it aligns perfectly with a pattern established 2 days prior. Earlier in the week, U.S. naval assets and Coast Guard cutters executed a wave of smuggling busts. In the Eastern Pacific, it was standard, routine work, yet the diplomatic fallout was anything but standard. The Venezuelan government accused foreign actors of disrupting their maritime economy, despite the operations occurring miles away. Venezuela almost immediately spiked their naval readiness condition, while small attack craft began declaring exclusion zones there. State television glorified the new security patrols, while the eyes-dead zones along their coast expanded rapidly. Nothing explicitly signaled war, but it signaled a navy that felt exposed and pressured, and very paranoid. And paranoia is usually where disasters at sea are born, as the tactical action officer reviews intelligence. Several data points are concerning because Venezuelan offshore units have pushed deeper east than is considered normal. Their surveillance aircraft are flying erratic loops near Trinidad, while several coastal radar installations came online recently. None of this posed a direct threat to the Ford, nor demanded a kinetic response right now. But it signaled one reality, that Caracas was anxious enough to put more sensors and steal out. The force captain mutters, barely audible, that nothing we did was meant for them on this transit. But the sea ignores diplomatic nuance, as 3 contacts maintain a rigid formation on the digital scope. There's no drifting and no wandering, because they are stalking these 3 unknown vessels right now. They are not behaving like traffic navigating a shipping lane, but behaving like captains with specific orders. 2 Guayquerí-class offshore patrol ships establish a perfect parallel track with the supercarrier 10 miles out. Where every rudder shift feels like a threat, while trailing them is a smaller Guaycamacuto-class boat. Its speed varies slightly, just enough to suggest they are coordinating via comms as contacts hold steady. 1.8. Matching our velocity to the decimal is all the proof the Ford requires today. Chips do not synchronize speed by coincidence. Not with this gap and not with this high accuracy. However, the Venezuelan commanders are not doing anything illegal, like fire control radar or sudden hard turns. This is shadowing slow, deliberate, and engineered to test patience as the bridge crew monitors the bearing. It is frozen, which is the textbook definition of an intercept course, rather than a simple transit. Constant bearing with decreasing range means collision, but constant range means you are being hunted right now. The CIC zooms optical sensors, showing distance between the Venezuelan holes, is too precise to be accidental. Their adjustments come in micro increments, mirroring the movements of the Ford by fractions of a minute. It is the naval equivalent of a stranger walking right on your heels without saying a word. No contact or words, but ensuring you feel their breath on your neck as the Dow logs. Target motion analysis suggests deliberate pacing with no hostile emanations, so we recommend passive tracking of targets. Let us see how long they have the fuel for this. Topside flight ops grind to a halt with no catapults firing, and just sailors lining the catwalks. They squint at the gray horizon, waiting for the next card to drop in this strange game. And the Venezuelan patrol ships just keep matching every single waypoint and every knot in every yard. Then at 0811 hours, a silent warning flashes on the integrated warfare system today. An altitude contact has no business being this far from the coast, as CIC reports low altitude. UAV detected southern vector 5 miles out, and the room holds its breath, not out of fear. It is out of confusion because the Ford E-2D Hawkeye tagged it first, from above. It scans locks and identifies a compact drone, likely launched from a shore battery or patrol vessel. It is a civilian chassis flying a military grid search pattern, identified as a drone altitude 180. Tracking northwest, piercing the outer defensive ring. It is not weaponized or diving or flying directly at us. It is not flying at the carrier, but is in the wrong sky at the absolute worst moment. With 3 surface combatants dogging the Ford, adding an aerial snooper complicates the battle space instantly. Right now, nobody knows if the drone pilot realizes where the Ford is or how dangerously close they are flitting to a high-value target. The Dow hails the Hawkeye to keep tracking and not engage, just watch. Inside the Ford Nerve Center, the temperature rises as a drone at this range implies data collection. It could be a comms error or a board operator pushing limits. To a carrier strike group, all units, this is command-maintain secure channel, being stalked by 3 foreign warships. It reads like an escalation ladder with surface stalkers located below. With electronic eyes above, not shooting but absolutely watching, the executive officer whispers, "Whatever they are doing, they are building a firing solution." And every minute that solution gets clearer at 0819. The stalemate finally cracks, not with a missile but with a screw-up by a Venezuelan unit. The central Quacari vessel executes a violent course correction. Not a drift or slide, but a hard turn. A committed turn that slashes diagonally across its former path. As CIC reports contact 2 coming hard, right? 20 degrees cutting toward our bow as the bridge goes quiet, because that maneuver is too sharp. It is tragically timed to be standard procedure, yet it lacks the profile of an attack run. Velocity remains low and fire control is cold, and wingmen do not follow as the Dow checks intel. One detail screams out that Venezuela reactivated a string of coastal radar buoys earlier in the week. Ancient, glitchy hardware with terrible resolution beyond the horizon, fed garbage coordinates to that patrol ship perhaps. If it fed garbage coordinates to that patrol ship, it would explain this navigation fix phantom signal. a correction that now looks like a collision intercept. As the quartermaster yells, range collapsing, bearing constant. If he holds this line, he crosses our bow, which creates a dangerous situation on the water. That is not just bad sailing. My friends, that is honestly a death wish on open water. Only now does the USS McFall, one of the destroyers riding shotgun, finally enter the fray today. She enters not with guns or speed, but just enough attitude to show she is awake now. The tactical action officer grabs the handset, ordering McFall to position for non-escalatory shading right away. No flares and no sirens. Because a soft intercept means simply putting your body in the way. As the McFall angles out then, the Venezuelan captain continues his disastrous turn toward the massive steel carrier. He is likely staring at a screen telling him he is safe, while the Ford captain watches. The captain watches numbers tumble, saying, "I hope they wake up soon before this becomes a collision." In 1 minute, this stops being an exercise and start being a collision. Report for the skipper. The Venezuelan patrol ship that broke formation is now sliding uncomfortably close to a nuclear-powered Leviathan. It is sliding close to a ship the size of a fallen skyscraper, as the bridge calls bridge. This is CIC reporting. That contact is inside 1.5 miles and closing right now. That is not just proximity, but is inside the safety bubble. The invisible kill box carriers maintain. Every carrier maintains this zone to prevent accidents or espionage, or even potential suicide runs at sea. Ford does not flinch because carrier doctrine is absolute. To maintain stability unless survival dictates movement. But right now, mass is the message. As the McFadden adjusts again, sliding into a goalie stance, stands between the carrier and the incoming vessel, which is a blunt physical statement of force. It is not a threat but a wall, as the Ford captain keeps his tone flat today. He orders steady course and steady speed, while the perspective shifts from the bridge of the patrol. On the Venezuelan ship, the perspective shifts from tracking a blip to seeing a literal steel mountain. The superstructure of the Ford Tower is like an office building, while her flight deck is incredibly long. Her flight deck is longer than 3 football fields, and her wake churns with violence of displacement. That displacement dwarfs a destroyer, and suddenly the officers on that patrol boat realize the terrible error. They did not just drift near a ship, they drifted into the shadow of the U.S. Navy. Then the hammer drops as the Ford initiates a high-speed turn, which is a ponderous arc. It is executed for safety. But physics takes over when 100,000-ton vessel shifts rudder. When she shifts her rudder even slightly, and the ocean reacts exactly like it has been kicked hard. A massive wall of displaced water erupts from the Ford starboard quarter, moving fast and rising high. It rises higher than the Venezuelan crew expects as CIC reports wake. Turbulence building and contact reacting. Contact 2 is reacting late. Too late as the artificial tsunami slams into their hull. Right now, it hits with enough kinetic energy to shutter the entire frame, knocking gear off bulkheads and sailors. Knocking sailors off their feet. It is not lethal but absolutely humiliating for the patrol ship crew. The smaller Guacameo-class boat trailing behind has to slam its engines into reverse to avoid capsizing. Ford does not speed up or flashlights, and does not arm a single battery today. She simply changes direction, and hydrodynamics achieves what diplomacy failed to do. For the Venezuelan captain, finally. The captain finally understands the scale of his mistake, as turbines scream and rudders go hard over. The three vessels scramble away from the parallel track, peeling off one by one as CIC calls. CIC calls north contacts breaking opening range to 3 miles, 4 miles, shadowing terminated. Now the picture is clean and crisis averted. Not with warheads, but with water displacement at this moment. By 083, 7 hours, the last Venezuelan unit has vanished from the visual completely horizon. They limp back with no radio apologies or explanations. Just empty ocean as the only real evidence. That empty ocean is the only real evidence at sea that someone wants to quit right now. But the incident is not quite over, not in the information space, because a video surfaces later. 2 hours later, a grainy, choppy video surfaces on a Venezuelan government channel showing 20 seconds footage. It is 20 seconds of footage filmed from the deck of that patrol ship, showing the silhouette. Just enough to show the menacing silhouette of the Ford, and a caption saying imperialist warship violates. It claims violation of security zone, with no mention of the glitchy radar buoy or drifting inside. No mention of drifting inside the perimeter, just a story that is clean and provocative and useful. The Pentagon response is standard but dismissive, saying the Ford conducted lawful, routine operations in international waters. There is no drama or counter-accusations, because what happened that morning was not a battle, really. It was a masterclass in modern gray zone warfare, the silent, heavy shoving matches navies engage in. Navies engage in shoving matches just below the headline level, with no gunfire and no explosions involved. It is just positioning pressure and psychology, like a drone pushed a mile too far that day. Or a captain trusting a ghost signal. Or a supercarrier refusing to give up the road completely. But here is the thing these micro-decisions compound. Because one bad bearing line can snowball fast. One bad bearing line can snowball into a diplomatic crisis. And one wrong turn looks like war. One carrier-size weight can end a standoff, and end a standoff without a single shot fired. Sarah, so I ask you, if you were commanding the Ford that morning, would you have held your line or maneuvered earlier? Would you have maneuvered earlier to de-escalate? And let me know your tactical call in the comments. Leave your tactical call in the comments below, because I read every single one of them personally. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please hit that like button and subscribe to Wines of Thought. Subscribe so you never miss a briefing. And if you want to go the extra mile today, support our mission directly and consider joining the fleet to get access to loyalty badges and responses. To help us bring more untold naval history to the surface, by heading to the channel page. Just click. Join and climb aboard, because let us be real, it is a lot safer here. It is safer to analyze these near misses from your living room than from a carrier's bow, than sitting 1 mile off a carrier bow. So I will catch you in the next one.